The Homunculus are the main villains of popular anime Fullmetal Alchemist. They're named after the 7 deadly sins, and each one represents the sin they're named after. To me, they're one of the most interesting aspects in a show filled with interesting aspects. I don't hate any of the Homunculus, but I definitely like some more than others. So in this video, we're gonna rank the Homunculus. For the record, this list is specifically from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, not the 2003 anime. I understand that some of the Homunculus are completely different characters in the 2003 anime, but I don't care about that one. I'm talking about Brotherhood, the better one. Also, I'm not ranking these characters based on how strong they are. That's boring, they're all strong. I'm ranking them based on how interesting they are as a character, and of course how much I like them. One last thing, the guy from my anime list that had the same idea as me, you can suck my balls. Let's start this off with Sloth, who's my least favorite out of all the homunculi. Sloth was introduced as this big mofo digging underground in order to create a giant transmutation circle. Most of the reason I think Sloth isn't as good is just because he's the least interesting character of the homunculus. He's a big, dim-witted monster who constantly complains about all the work he has to do. He still does the job though, so that's good I guess. It's also shown that when he gets frustrated with someone or something, he can go all out. When he goes full strength, he's the fastest of the homunculi, which was shocking and makes you wonder how undefeatable this guy could be if he wasn't so lazy. This really shows off the problem with the sin of sloth. That laziness can hold back someone's true potential. I did enjoy his arc, and the introduction of his full strength form was shocking. But compared to all the other homunculi, he's just not as interesting. Could blame it on the fact that he just doesn't have as much screen time as the other homunculi, which should tell you a lot about how interesting the rest of these characters truly are. That Sloth, who I still really enjoy, is my least favorite of the bunch. Lust was the first homunculus we get introduced to. She's sadistic, loves to hurt people, and is hot as hell. Despite what her name and look suggests, she doesn't seem to be a lustful type. Sure, she talks seductively and manipulates dudes into doing stuff for her, but it's not like she's a sex fiend trying to constantly get her bed rocked. If anything, she displays more of a bloodlust, since she loves hurting people and finds pleasure in people being in pain. Lust likes to cause carnage and then sit back and watch it all unfold. She doesn't desire love, she mostly desires killing people, which I think is a pretty interesting direction to take a character all about lust. Besides her lust, she's also pretty smart and seems to have a mother-son kind of thing with gluttony. They're together constantly throughout the show. Sadly, Lust dies pretty early on in the show in terms of how long the show is. I think that puts a bit of a damper on her character for me. Since she dies so early, she doesn't grow along with the other homunculi. But she did have more depth than Sloth, so that's why she's here. As I was making this list, I had a hard time with lust and gluttony spots, but after thinking about it for a while, yeah, gluttony deserves to be above his older sister. Despite the fact that his sin is pretty obvious, he's a glutton, he eats a lot of food, I think his character is really unique. Unlike his other siblings, Gluttony is like a child in a weird way. He doesn't just eat people on his own, he's usually ordered to by the other homunculus. He even asks permission. What a nice guy. He loves his family as if they were his real family. When Lust died, Gluttony went berserk and wanted to kill Mustang for taking his sister away. There's a very human connection there, even if they despise humans. When he's not devouring humans, he's quite innocent and nice. He even showed Father's lair to Alphonse once because Al told him to. To be honest, I feel kind of bad for him. It makes you wonder what would happen if Gluttony wasn't cursed to be a homunculus. Plus, his power of eating things and having a giant hole in his stomach was really fun. In the episode where Edward, Lynn, and Envy got swallowed by him and explored what was inside his stomach was interesting in a very, very strange way. There's not much to say about the sin he represents, but Gluttony's character I found to be fascinating in a way. At his core, he's a nice kid who loves his family, even if they aren't his real family. I'm not completely sympathetic for him, since he still enjoys eating people, but just like with most of the homunculus, despite them doing really bad things, it's still sad to see what they go through. Plus, his death was one of my favorites in the series due to how ironic it is, and also how nonchalant Pride is about it. Speaking of which, to talk about Pride, we must first talk about Salim Bradley. Salim's a cute kid, loves his family, adores his adoptive father, basic cute kid. But this cute kid has a secret, and suddenly this adorable child becomes a monster. Pride is the most evil of the homunculus. He's the first homunculus created by Father, and because his name is Pride, he's extremely arrogant. Unlike the other homunculi, who at least have some kind of sibling relationship with one another, Pride doesn't care about all that. As shown by when he cruelly ate Gluttony. Yeah, he's evil, even compared to the other homunculi. Hell, Greed calls him a monster. A monster is calling a monster a monster. He sees all the people below him as playthings. He sees his comrades as things that are only there to make him stronger. And all around is just a really terrible person. which is exactly why he's so high on this list, because I really love the contrast between Salim Bradley and Pride. To think one of the most evil characters in the show is seen as such a cute kid by anyone who doesn't know about the Homunculus is really fun to me. Sometimes I just love watching really evil people do really evil things, and Pride is definitely one of those villains. His power is pretty cool to me too, being able to control shadows with freaky little eyes on them that can pull people into the underworld and corrupt them? That's sick! He's the only one of the Homunculus to live as well, returning to the happy kid he was before. His memories of Pride or his father or anything regarding the Homunculus are completely wiped. I think that's a good ending for him. He can grow up and become a normal person, and maybe with a little less pride. Raft, like his adopted son, is also tough to talk about without his human counterpart. So let's talk about the future president himself, King Bradley. He's so cool he's gotta have 3 words in his name that all mean leader. Despite being as high up as he is, he's shown to be a pretty happy guy to be around. He even cracks jokes, but do not be fooled. He is a misleading character. Beneath this positive, inspirational leader to look up to, a father and husband to be proud of, is a ruthless homunculi known as Raft, the final homunculi created by Father. Sure, he may seem like he's pleasant on the outside, but when he gets angry, you know why he represents the sin of Raft. Those shaking hands at Hughes' funeral, he wasn't sad because he lost a soldier, that a wife lost her husband, that a daughter lost her father. He was fighting back the inner fury to shut the crying daughter up. He fights silently with a cold expression on his face, not bothered by killing at all, using that inner fury he has bottled up inside him all the time. He doesn't represent uncontrolled rage, but rather cold, silent, calculated rage, which in a way is even scarier. Despite the fact he's the living personification of the Son of Wrath, he still loves his wife because that was one of the only things in his life he got to choose. He takes great pride in the fact that despite his whole life being planned for him, he was able to choose his family. But it's not just because Wrath is a really great character. It's more what has to do with the other stuff. First off, his backstory is really cool, being turned into a homunculus by experiments. Out of everybody, he was the one who survived and became leader, and his design is probably my favorite out of all the homunculus. You can't make eye patches uncool for me, it's impossible. Especially if that eye patch is hiding a special power. His power of having an ultimate eye is awesome. He has elite precision and accuracy, and his reaction time is insane because of his eye, which makes him a tough opponent to fight. However, even though I do love his character, there are 2 more that I like just a little bit more. Yeah, when I rewatched this show, I was surprised at how much I liked Envy too. Crazy what you miss when you first start watching anime. When it comes to being cool towards the human race, yeah, Envy is definitely number 1. Envy will kill people without hesitation and even toy with them. I mean, he killed Hughes in the body of his wife for Pete's sake and then tried to pin the murder on Ross. He started the freaking Ishbar War, a war that led to almost an entire race of people being murdered and years of prejudice against the Ishbar people, and he was proud of it. It seems there's nothing that brings him more joy than seeing humans dying or fighting one another. But underneath all this hate, you find out the reason he embodies the sin of envy. He's jealous of humans. He's jealous of humans' inner strength. No matter how much he kills or toys with them, they don't quit. He's jealous because homunculi don't have the same bond that humans do. That jealousy makes him hate humans. And when he's finally understood by Edward, he kills himself. He didn't like being understood by a species he hates. Deep down, Envy is probably the saddest and most tragic character of the homunculi. He never got to experience the happiness he was so envious of, and due to his overwhelming jealousy, he couldn't help but hate humans. It's an envy that somebody can't help but have, a feeling I'm sure is relatable to some people out there. I also think having the shape-shifting power is pretty sweet, and I really love his true form. It's both the right amount of terrifying and cool, while also fitting his diabolical personality, and the CGI isn't terrible for it. Could be better, but I'll give it a pass due to how old the series is. However, he's not the best character, because the best character is... it's Greed. Of course it's Greed, why wouldn't it be? The reason Greed is my favorite character, not just among the homunculus, but the show itself, is because he's by far the most interesting and entertaining character. Since the sin he embodies is greed, he wants everything. Money, fame, women, to become king of the world, he wants it all. He's kind of a cocky asshole, and because of that, he's sort of been a rebel homunculi even before he turned good. He's the only one to openly defy Father, and because of that, he's the first one we see punished. Which means he got killed by Father and replaced with a new Greed, one without about his memories. Let me bring it back for a second. Greed had these chimeras surrounding him. They were like his gang. Sure, he called them his henchmen and compared them to his possessions, but deep down he really cared about them. They were like his only friends. Once he saw Wrath brutally murder one of his old friends, he gained his old memories back. And he wanted revenge for his friend, even if another homunculus was the one who killed them. To talk about greed, we also have to talk about Ling, who he shares a body with. See, Ling is also greedy. He wants to be king as well. So these two are pretty much the same, except Ling was nicer and not as cocky. They learned to work together, turning Greed into an anti-hero. Greed never hated humans like the other homunculi. In fact, after becoming good, he learns to respect humans for the same reason Envy was jealous of them. Greed just also happens to be the most entertaining of the homunculus, and his constant bickering with Edward and Ling was really fun to watch. I didn't even talk about his power yet. Greed has the ultimate shield. He can harden his body and make himself indestructible. He can do it on certain parts of his body, or he can cover his entire body. I enjoyed the ultimate eye more, but the ultimate shield is for sure a close second. He can make himself into a tank that can't take damage. It doesn't even hinder his speed. Plus he looks like a demon in his full body form. Now that's awesome. Greed is my favorite homunculus. If it wasn't for his resurrection, he probably would have been last due to the fact he was barely in the show. But the second half of Brotherhood really did wonders for his character. At the end of the day, he just wanted friends. That's why he joined up with Edward and them. Sure, he may call them possessions, but that's all just a mask. Greed wanted a lot of things, but the number one thing he wanted the most was friendship. And that firmly places him at number 1. Rewatching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood was a blast. Sometimes you forget how good shows are when you haven't seen them in a while. Part of the reason I like this show so much is because the homunculus are as well written as they are. They embody what sin they represent perfectly, but it's also unique in how they did it. Some of them are sympathetic, some are downright malicious, hell some are both. But each one of these characters I found to be compelling. So what do you think of my list? With listing great characters such as these, it's tough to say this character is better than this character, but please remember I like all of these characters and don't dislike any of them. I just happen to love some and like some. I might do more ranking videos like this. We'll see what happens. I'm Kikaya, and have a good day.